Hey guys, quick little note before you continue on with this video. What you're about to see was recorded roughly a month ago, maybe a little longer, but just roughly a month ago. And yeah, there are a few spots in the video that are kind of glitched out. It's overall intact though. You will get the gist of what I'm talking about, but it is overall intact. So on like a few spots, you can probably count them on one hand, and it's nothing major. So I just want to give you guys that heads up before you watch it. And also a quick little note: I'm still not taking in any new requests. September 1st is the day where I will take new requests in. And also, anybody going to BronyCon, please let me know on my Discord. Join my Discord and whatnot, because that is the social media that I use, is my Discord server to interact with you guys. That is what I use. So, anybody who's going to be going to BronyCon, please let me know, and just so we can see if maybe you want to have a chance for us to meet up somewhere whilst at the event, if you're going, that is. So, just, yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy what you're about to see. This is a book review, as the title says. Book review, Sir Anon reading his first story, which is an MLP fanfic. So anyways, on to the video. I sincerely hope that you enjoy.
Well, hello fair viewers. I am Sir Anon, here for my very first book review. It has taken some time for this to unfold, but we are finally here and ready to dive into a story. Now, the story that was chosen for me by the channel owner was an interesting story that turns out is a fan fiction. A fan-written work based off of an existing intellectual property. That being a fan fiction of, well, My Little Pony, of all things. And how the person managed to get this published, I'm uncertain, considering how strict Hasbro normally is when it comes to their intellectual property, but here it is. Past Sins by Pinstroke and assisted by Batty Gloom. Up of this story outside to learn a little bit about its background. It has an interesting, well, shall we say, history. Initially, it was written one way, but outside pressure convinced the writers to, well, make some revisions to make the characters within a little more likable and more in character to their in-show canonical behaviors. So that's understandable. And after reading what changes were made, I have to think that I think this was probably for the best, as we'll get to it. Anyways, I do have the wiki pulled up as a just in case I may have forgotten something partway through. But otherwise, we are going to just get into this review. So, what is Past Sins about? Well, this is a section I will be describing very, very vaguely what goes on in the general time span that they happen. That way as to not be trying to read the whole story to you, and at the same time giving you a version where you know what's going on. So basically, to give a little bit of history to where the premise of this book begins. In the very first premiere of the show, back in 2010, in the Generation 4 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, there was a villain referred to as Nightmare Moon, which was the darker half of the sister to the Princess of the Land, Princess Celestia, and the sister being Princess Luna. Her jealousy over her sister's adoration that had been given to her by their subjects led her to grow very resentful, and that came out as a darker entity known as Nightmare Moon, who sought to eternally plunge the world into an endless night. So, now that that backstory's out of the way, not quite. But anyways, fast forward 1,000 years after she's banished to the moon, the Princess Celestia is trapped in the sun herself, and then, well, Twilight Sparkle, the mayor who discovers the legend of Nightmare Moon, and 5 new friends of hers show up to save the day. It's a little more complicated than just that. I'm being vague because I want to get on with this. and using something referred to as the elements of harmony meant to bring balance to the world, they managed to separate the darkness from Nightmare Moon and bring her younger sister back to the eldest sister. Apologies for stumbling over the words. So yes, and Celestia got her sister back, and the darkness within Luna was banished. So, that was the premiere. Which sets up what this is. Now, this is going to get into the spoiler section somewhat. Well, I say somewhat, I'm basically going to be outlining the story. So, if you do not wish for spoilers, fast forward, or actually, if you're just interested in the vague story, listen on. It could be your cup of tea. So basically, the story starts off with a prologue. Twilight Sparkle has been kidnapped by a cult, of all things. A cult dedicated to bringing back Nightmare Moon. Keep in mind, Princess Luna, the mare who Nightmare Moon originated from, is her own mare. Now, is her own living being. She is herself, but they're wanting to bring back her evil as a separate entity from her. So, this cult kidnaps Twilight, uses a small bit of her blood, in order to give, I suppose, the jump starts to get the spell rolling to help bring back the dreaded mare in the moon. However, before they can finish, they are interrupted by Celestia and her god, coming to save Twilight. The cultists run off, and the spell is incomplete. They think it's done. However, a small ball of energy is left behind, and it slowly starts to grow. Twilight, having realized that she forgot her saddlebags after being kidnapped, goes back into the forest, and whereupon she finds them and a small little filly that has very striking similarities to the Mare in the Moon, jet black coat, and very draconic teal eyes. Now, Twilight, being the cautious master she is, thinks this could have been brought on by the spell, but the filly in question doesn't seem to hold any characteristics of Nightmare Moon. Very timid and very frightened. So she takes her in. Again, this is all the footnotes version of the story. Takes her in and tries to observe her. A few days go by, and she notices that Nyx, as she has come to name the child, is growing more and more tiresome of staying within the house. So, she calls upon a friend to call in a favor. A favor that would involve Nyx getting a disguise from Rarity, and someone else for Twilight to confide in and have an extra set of eyes to watch over her. She enrolls Nyx in school. She's not popular. She only gets a few friends, and there are two... I will just refer to them as bullies, as those are probably the kindest words that can be used. They are very foul little younglings, who, after a few days, decide that they are tired of Nyx's unsatiable curiosity, and, well, what child should be denied their curiosity, especially within the classroom? But anyways, so they trick her into going into the same forest that she was born in, all alone. This, of course, well, Nyx falls for it, and she goes back to the castle where she was defeated as Nightmare Moon, though she does not remember such until she gets there, and then the memories start to replay in her head. Twilight, after discovering that Nyx is not around, gets real, well, let's just say pissed at the two little fillies, and gets it out of them where Nyx is. She goes over and finds Nyx, and realizes that Nyx does in fact have some of the memories of Nightmare Moon after Nyx apologizes for the memories that she has. Fast forward, there's a play coming on, and Nyx decides she wants to play as Nightmare Moon because her black coat fits. Well, that can't do, Twilight says, basically. She doesn't want anyone to put any similarities to be linked between the two. Fast forward, Nyx does it anyways. She gets the praise from the princesses even, who don't bring up any similarities either. And then, behind the scenes, back in Canterlot, the capital, the cultists secretly gather and try to plot and see if there was any chance at all that part of their spell may have worked. And fast forward even more to a play, not play, a play day, rather, that is being put on by the class. And, well, some interesting things happen. Nyx discovers she has very powerful magic, and turns one of the timid characters, Fluttershy, into a literal tree. She manages to turn her back, but it's still, I would not imagine that being anything but a jarring experience, but according to Fluttershy, it was nice. But more happens throughout the day, wherein a secret cult member recognizes the power and alerts the leader back in Canterlot, the leader being Spell Nexus. Fast forward another few days, Celestia pays Twilight a visit, and trying to convince her to give Nyx back, or not back, to give Nyx to Celestia so that they can perform a spell to make sure whether or not Nyx really is Nightmare Moon. Now, that being said, this was one of the plots that were originally re-edited, because in the original version, turns out, well, Celestia was a lot more harsh, but in the revised version that is available on Fanfiction, by the way, the story will be left in the link in the description for anyone to read, should they desire. I have the book version, so I don't have to do that, but anyways, in the revised version, it fits so much more with Celestia's actual persona that is put on in the show, and that is a much more benevolent person who does not want to take drastic action against a child. But anyways, that's what she takes the child to Canterlot, wherein, all too little too late, she discovers she's been tricked as they begin the spell to fast forward the process back to get Nyx into a full-grown Nightmare Moon, which they teleport from Canterlot back to Ponyville, and Nyx is reborn as Nightmare Moon, officially. They leave after Nightmare Moon now sheds a few words around the town, claiming her dominance, and then over the course of the next few days, she would overthrow Celestia and Luna and claim herself Empress of Equestria. And her cult, I'll just refer to them as that still, her cult had built a castle outside of Ponyville that they then relocated to. Over the course of the days, she has not risen the sun at all, and you can imagine that would lead to some very negative side results, i.e., it getting much colder. It's staying cold because the sun is not around to warm the lands. Crops starting to wither from the lack of sunlight. All the while, Nightmare Moon is still stuck in her castle, listening to the words of her advisor, that is Spell Nexus, and not quite feeling sure of herself because she now has memories of the times when she was a child, and not just the times when she was a diabolical schemer who wanted to rule everything. Now, this is where one of the interesting things comes up, because she struggles with this, and at one point Twilight manages to discover where they are, and gets trapped as she tries to go meet with Nyx. Nyx yells at her, but does not torture her, nor has her killed. Instead, she has her thrown in the dungeon, where the guards are instructed to treat her correctly, or they are instructed to treat her, well, with some level of dignity, give her food, water, make sure she's comfortable. So, some of Twilight's influence can be seen in Nightmare Moon here throughout. Going forward, the Cutie Mark Crusaders, which were some of the few friends that Nyx had actually made in town, arrive with their childlike innocence and just tell Nyx, hey, you can be yourself. You're the queen, as you say. You can be our friend. And throws them in the dungeon after her advisor says he would rather have them killed for their transgressions. Things go on. She eventually raises a son because she does realize how miserable everyone is. And throughout it, her advisor is getting more and more dissatisfied because he believes that she has been poisoned in her mind by the positive influence of Twilight. So he sets something up to wherein Twilight tries to kill Nightmare Moon, and is even set to the gallows. However, Nyx saves her without anyone realizing what's going on, and discovers the true reason why the cult has even followed her in the first place. Spell Nexus had within him the dark remains of what had been Nightmare Moon, and that influence is what had set this all in motion. All that evil, all that negativity, and a little bit of that he had shared with Twilight to get her to do the deeds that he believed was what would push Nyx to the edge to become what Nightmare Moon was supposed to be in his eyes. Nightmare Moon would free Twilight from this influence, as well as Spell Nexus and everyone else throughout the course of the day, and sent them home, and then therefore stepped down as ruler, but did not release Celestia and Luna yet, because she was afraid of what would happen to her. Fast forward another few days. The town becomes under attack by monsters who have realized that Celestia and Luna's power is not present anymore. Nyx goes and saves the day using very elaborate powers. I will shorthand it and say she basically does the Shadow Clone Jutsu from Naruto to make it all possible, and uses a lot of power in the process, severely wounding her, but saving everyone in town. She has become truly her own person, not just what she was being told she should be. Not based on her past, but based on who she was becoming. Fast forward about 2 days, perhaps. Twilight manages to convince Nyx that she needs to set Luna and Celestia free, because they are the rightful rulers, and they're the only ones who can be able to protect this... who would be able to protect the citizens should another attack of that scale happen again. She reluctantly agrees after a little bit of time spent home with her mother. Oh wait, I'm just realizing this. I forgot to mention, I believe I forgot to mention, that Twilight had become a mother figure to Nyx. I should add an addendum somewhere. My mistake. 'Tis all good though. 'Tis all well. You are now informed, after all. So, yes, that explains Nyx's behavior, though. The mother's influence that Twilight had begun to exude from her after becoming more attached to Nyx was what changed Nyx for the better, even after becoming Nightmare Moon. So she frees the princesses. They go around secretly asking people's opinions on what should be done with Nyx. In the end, it is decided that all the power of Nightmare Moon that Nyx had should return to its rightful possessor, that being Luna. So all the excess power and even the memories as Nightmare Moon originally had were all returned to Luna, and Nyx was left as just a small child as she was the same day that Twilight found her. A lot weaker and with less magic, of course, but still, all's well and good. And the little child even receives her cutie mark, which is a symbol that appears on their flanks whenever they discover who they're meant to be. She discovered that she, by being willing to give her life away, to sacrifice the things that she holds dear, she is a protector of others. So, a party is held by the party planet Pinkie Pie, because that's what she does. And then the story essentially somewhat ends there. There have been a few sequels afterwards by Sir Pinstroke, and even a lot of other fan authors. But Past Tense is very unique for how well it stands out, especially after the revisions. In my honest opinion, this is a very good story. Definitely worth a read, and even if you are not necessarily a brony, for there are parts that, unless you are a fan of the show, you will need to know to understand some of the references. If you swapped that out with mystical things like elves or dwarves and the such, or any other typecast of characters, you would have a really good story regardless of which characters it was based off of. It is that type of story. It was very well written, in my opinion, especially for one that was not officially, commissioned. So what would I rate it? Well, this though a good story, I would not call it perfect. But I would overall give it a glowing 9.5 out of 10, though. More so for the overall enjoyment not being 100%. However, let that not dissuade you. 9.5 out of 10 is not an easy goal to reach for any story. So, a little bit of the review section now. Why is this story a 9 out of 10? As I stated before, the story is very entrancing. There are interesting parts of it that, although you may need to know the show to understand it more, it is still very intriguing and captivating. You will feel like you are there throughout Twilight's struggle to come to terms with who she is taking care of, and the growing feelings of being a mother figure to a small child. Same thing with Nyx. You feel her struggles of growing in a new world, experiencing being bullied, and experiencing having so few friends, but you feel for these characters. You feel their dismay when they are saddened. You feel their uncertainty. You feel their apprehension, and you feel their anger and their happiness as well. It is a very convincing and entrancing story indeed. The pacing is well done too. Nothing really feels rushed. Nothing feels drawn out beyond what it should be. It does not delve into the J.R.R. Tolkien trope as with Lord of the Rings, when things are over explained and detailed, which those books are still amazing, by the way. Not a slant against them, but for some people it can be a little much. So anyways, it is very well paced, in other words. And though there are little extra segments, some of which don't seem to go anywhere until later down the road, a lot of these are tied up in here. And as originally stated, the original version did get revised somewhat to incorporate some of the later seasons that would release after the initial posting of the first few chapters, including some slight character revisions. Originally, Nyx was somewhat of a Mary Sue who was becoming friends with everyone except the two bullies, but that just didn't really fit. Nyx's newer personality, though, the shy, timid one who's curious, yet also very easily frightened, became much more ingrained, I suppose is the better word, because she's much more relatable. She's not overly popular. She's someone who's an introvert because she doesn't know her circumstance. And I feel that is a bit more relatable to more people than the Mary Sue typecast she originally apparently was. I had not read that version, as I've stated before. I read this version, which contains the updated one. So, anyways, back to the review. Or rather, this is still part of the review, pardon. The characters are still well written. After these few revisions, all of the characters that were originally in the show do seem to fit the writing style that they were given for their characters originally. And the new characters that are done, the originally made characters by Penstroke and Back to Gloom, are also very intriguing and captivating as well. You understand, at least somewhat, that Spell Nexus, the cult leader, before it's discovered why he did what he did, that he had some kind of reasoning. We may not have understood why, but he was very devout in what he wanted to do, and we were wanted to know the full reasons why. The struggles between the characters as they want to come to terms with what they think the best course of action is, the regret that is felt when these actions take the turn for the worse into what they had feared would happen, and turned into what actually happened. And this is an overall good story. I definitely recommend it. Even if you're not a brony, you could look up these characters and discover some things about them that would help you understand it enough. And still probably enjoy it. Just replace the word pony with person or elf or whichever you want, and you've got a story that can go all around, despite its origins. It's a very good story, and I think it will stand the test of time. But anyways, I think that shall do for today's video, for this book review. I have no idea what I'm going to review next, but next time it'll be a proper book that is not a fan-written piece of work. Although, again, no slight towards this, it is a gem. But, yeah, we'll see what's next. We'll probably keep this one a surprise. But anyways, what are your thoughts, fair viewers? Have you read the story? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it? Do your opinions differ from my own, or do you pretty much agree with me? Even if you are not a brony, tell me of stories that you like that were fan-written stories. And just let's be interactive and productive and positive in our reviewings. Again, well, seeing as this is my first book review, I'm not quite certain the best way to end it, other than, I suppose this has been Sir Anon, and I wish you a very pleasant day, fair viewers.
Okay, regular voice, not done with the character. Holy crap, 24 minutes behind this mask and in this overcoat in the middle of summer. I've got a fan on there and a fan on over there. Oh, it's just, and after a day of sweating at work too. Holy cow. But yeah, like, I'm sorry that it took me so long, but I just wasn't sure when the best time to do it was. I think I just needed to go ahead and do it now before the month was over, because I wanted to keep that promise of at least getting this recorded before the month was over. So this is just gonna be a little addendum on the end. The book reviews are not going to be a common occurrence, unfortunately, just because I don't have that many books here at home to read. I have recently attained a couple of books, and may do The Exorcist soon. I may read that and just go ahead and get it early prepped for when Halloween comes around, so that way I'm more familiar with the story by then. But, you know, other than that, there's not a whole lot. There's only like 2 books maybe that I could think to do. But anyways, yeah, got hot in this mask. You could, before I wiped off, you could see the sweat on this thing, and wearing that hat with this mop of hair on my head. Well, but yeah, this video will be going out hopefully in a timely fashion before the month is truly over. And yeah, just a little addendum. The book reviews for the Sir Anon character are not going to be often, but I do hope to have fun whenever I do them, and I hope you guys have legitimately enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Yeah, I'm not going to do my regular outro just because this was a Sir Anon special video. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and go check out the story, again, link in the description, and yeah, see you guys.